Hey everyone, welcome back to a quick video that I'm going to do on blade baits. You know, I've done a handful of these talking about my favorite winter baits and winter fishing, and a blade bait is definitely one of my go-tos for both largemouth and smallmouth. If I've got deep wintering largemouth that are hanging out around bluegill clumps, which is what they do up here in the North Country, I for sure have a blade bait tied on. And it's a good way to get those really lethargic fish to bite. Same thing goes for fishing super deep water smallmouth. You know, it's one of those baits you can cover water with, you can slow down if you want to, and you can fish deep, and you can fish deep quickly. And that's really what really makes me think it's one of the best wintering baits, is just you can cover water, but it's so hard to normally cover water when you're fishing 20 to 50 feet of water. So to be able to do that quickly allows me to cover more ground and find more groups of fish, which just makes me more efficient on the water. And as you guys know, that's what a lot of my fishing is all about, is how do I become more efficient on the water? So I've done a bunch of videos on blade baits, and I've gotten a lot of questions from guys as to what are my favorite blade baits. There are a whole bunch that are out there on the market. There are some that I really am not fond of. And then there are others that I really think outperform those ones that I don't use anymore. So I want to kind of talk about each one, and you know, we'll go from there. I've got 4 or 5 that I utilize. My favorite is a Silver Buddy. Like, this is one of the most old school blade baits out there. But guys, I want to tell you, it's not just any Silver Buddy. I like the old ones. The old, like, they've gone through a couple of sales and purchases and kind of went out of business, came back, and they're not quite the same in my opinion. And the biggest difference to me is the fact that the sheet metal that they use for the blade is a thicker gauge diameter now than they used to be. So I do not think you get the same vibration out of them. And it's not as quick of a vibration. I feel like with an old one, if I pick the rod up nice and slowly, it like almost instantly kicks. Whereas with the new ones, I feel like when I pull up, it does not kick as quickly. So I feel like, you know, when you're talking about fish that are on the bottom, if I pull that bait up and it doesn't vibrate for the first foot, at that point, I'm above the fish and not where I want it to be vibrating. I want it to vibrate right past their noses instantly after pulling it off the bottom. So to me, that's the #1 criteria that makes a blade bait good. I want like instant vibration on the pull, and the old Silver Buddies to me are really good. And one of the things with that is, you know, they come with a specific hole location. You know, I don't know, I guess I should take one out of the container, but there's a lot of other blade baits will come with like 3 holes in the back. And yes, you can change the vibration of the bait by moving your swivel or your snap around those 3 holes. It's not a bad thing. I just like the fact that where the old Silver Buddies have the hole, seem like it's the perfect location for me, and I don't want to have to move my snap around. And that's a key with all these guys. You do want to use snaps. The snap is a really important part of a blade bait. It allows that bait to really have the freedom to vibrate quickly. So you do want to utilize a snap. But the Silver Buddy's like my #1. That is kind of the one that I love the most. And when it comes to colors, I like just straight metallic colors. And again, for me, like with the Silver Buddy, you can find old ones in various colors, in a white, in black. But the problem that I've found is when you have the paint on there, again, it widens the thickness of that sheet metal, and you don't get the same vibration. Like, I want that instant vibration, and if it's a painted old Silver Buddy, it does not work as well. I end up just taking all the paint off. But the Silver Buddy is the one I like the most. My next favorite one would be a Steel Shad. Steel Shads, I believe, are made out of Kentucky. They were at one point. I think they were around the Kentucky Lake area. And that's when I first found them. I was just down fishing Kentucky Lake, and a local bait shop had them. but they're really a good bait. They have a very wide wobble, a nice even fall in the water column, and they just seem to get a lot of bites. I don't know if it's the profile. They're much more long and thin, which is a nice profile, you know, for up here in the North Country that has that kind of Cisco look to it. Again, I'm using just the metallic colors. I don't like the stray that much. You know, I like the silvers, I like the golds, I like the bronze, and that's what I go with. But the steel shad is an excellent bait. It's a good warm water blade bait too, is I guess how I would describe it, because it is real wide wobbling, has a lot of thump, a lot of pull. So if I'm fishing, you know, a ledge, and I know guys down on the ledge lakes or on TVA and Kentucky Lake throw steel shads because they're good ledge baits. They're not as kind of finessey as I would call some of these other blade baits. So the steel shad is definitely one I carry with me. Next is one I've been using the last couple of years. It's the Megabass Blade-X. This is a really good one too. I like it's a much more compact design. It's a smaller built bait. It's a lot like, there used to be an old cotton cordell, I think it was called the Gay Blade, and it has that same shape to it, but that one I found doesn't work consistently, whereas like the Megabass one has a really good tight blade movement throughout, and it just seems like it gets a lot of bites. I do like, you know, like I was saying, the gold color. This is a color that I like for throwing in lakes that have a little bit more tannic color, you know, not necessarily gin clear lakes, but lakes that have a little bit of color where you've got a little bit of reddish tint. Some of the videos that I've done where you guys have commented I'm catching smallmouth that are real red, that's because the water has a tannic stain to it, but you can still see down 5 feet in that water, and it just seems like the fish have that reddish color. And when I'm fishing bodies of water like that, the gold will come into play really well. But I found that this Blade-X is just, it's more of a finessey approach, and it seems to work really well when the fish are not as willing to hit something that's got more wobble and movement, like the silver buddy or that steel shad. This is a lot like the Damiki Vault, I feel like, which is another one that I've been experimenting with the last year or 2 years, and I've had good success with that one too. So that's one that I would throw as well, the Damiki Vault. The last one is a little bit different shape, and for me, it's got really specific places that I like to throw it, and it's the Strike King Rage Blade, and it's a different style blade bait. It's basically the blade turned on its side and you pull it upright. You can see it's got the swivel in the middle of the blade. It's got a weighted head, and then it's got just one tail hook on it. And what I like about this is if I'm fishing something that's really snaggy, because the bait sits kind of like that in the water, the hook is coming off the tail, and because it's off the tail, it stays out of a lot of snags. So don't find that it gets stuck as much, and it also has a really good wobble on it. But this is not a bait that I want to cover water with. This for me is a bait that gets bit, but it's only in areas where I know that I've got fish. So once I've already located fish, I'll throw this Rage Blade through that area and work it a lot slower to get, you know, a couple extra bites here and there. So it's not my go-to bait by any means, but it is one that I carry with me specifically for those instances where I've found a spot that the fish are utilizing and I've caught a bunch and the bites died. I can throw that back in there and normally get 1 or 2 extra bites. And I think for me, it's just because the profile of it looks much more like a dying shad. When you pull it, it kind of wobbles on the side versus, you know, a nice tight wobble. And it looks much more like a dying shad or a dying bait fish. But those are that's what I carry, guys. I don't know if I have it over there. My box of blade baits, I mean, I carry a small box. It weighs about 10 pounds. You know, it's probably that big, and it's got, I mean, there's probably 60 or 70 blade baits, but these are the blade baits that are in there. And it's just a matter of using what I've liked. But I'm telling you guys, not all blade baits are the same. There's a lot of generic blade baits out there that look identical until you start comparing the components, like the thickness of the actual sheet metal that's used. You know, the one thing I will state with all of these is you want to make sure you use a clip. And, you know, if you're using like the old Silver Buddy, you know, where they threaded the hook on through the holes so they didn't use split rings, you'll lose a lot of fish if you keep those stock hooks on. So I'll end up replacing them and putting on split rings and sharper treble hooks. But if I'm just out fun fishing, those hooks that came with it are sharp enough. And what I do like about them is that because they're not soldered together, they will stretch apart. So if you get stuck and you're using 10-pound fluorocarbon, you can pull out most of those hooks because the hook will bend, which I kind of really like. So, you know, it's just one of those things. If you want super sharp hooks, if you're fishing a tournament, you probably want to replace them. Otherwise, they're probably good enough for you. Anyways, guys, I hope this answers the questions, because I got a lot of questions about what blade baits. Can you give me some more guidance on blade baits? And these are the ones I use. Hopefully you guys can catch a few fish for them. And if you've got other blade baits that you'd also recommend, throw it in the comment section so other viewers can learn from you guys as well. I hope it was helpful. If it was, hit that like button and stay tuned. We got another video coming out tomorrow.